everybody, Patrick Connor here, and welcome to the Knuckles and Gloves podcast. Dude, we've had boxing, and more boxing last week, this week, coming next week. It's in boxing everywhere, dude. So we had to recap some of the stuff that we've had recently. Man, I'm here with my boy, Aris Pina, CompuBox operator, a fight fanatic like myself. Aris, how you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. There's a lot going on. The sport is healthier than ever. We had some big fights, lots of unification fights. Boxing. Like you said, you got the big Hall of Fame induction weekend coming up this weekend, bro. Boxing's hotter than ever right now. Hell yeah. No, it's actually dead.
Yeah. It's, these guys, it's been said for like over 100 years, but it kind of kicks up every so often. And every so often, some stupid ass grifter is just like going to throw out the phrase boxing is dead or boxing is dying.
Usually after like something big happens in MMA, like UFC in particular.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
And I'm not even going to say his name because who gives a shit, but one dude from the LA Times this guy has literally made a cottage industry on like anytime this dude's a baseball writer and anytime anything happens in boxing, he's like, look at this, it's dying. And I'm like, dude, baseball almost didn't happen this season. Shit was in like dire straight contract negotiations and they almost won an entire season.
Y'all went on strike either, so shut up.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just like, bro, that guy is in the shitter right now because boxing's fucking lording over all of the other sports like it always has, you piss ants. No, we love boxing. Yeah,
and always crawls itself back to the top, as man, no matter how sordid it is, no matter how much shit goes down in the sport.
They ain't never striking in boxing, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Maybe they should.
We still here, man.
Never mind. Don't ever strike in boxing. Don't use that fucking idea at all. But look, dude, it's just been nonstop. This coming week, it's not as busy, but the last few weeks have been really busy, and namely the last like 3 or 4 days have been really, really good for high quality boxing. So I figured we'd start with the one that happened this morning at a really odd time. Naoya Inoue wound up absolutely destroying Nonito Donaire in a rematch to 2019's Fight of the Year. They slipped in that Fight of the Year right at the end of the year. Dude, it was almost 2020, but they got it in there. It was definitely one of the highest quality Fight of the Year, level fights that you could get. And
when it's one of those fights for a Fight of the Year, you want to show people that's not a fan. You show them a fight like that.
Exactly. Where, I mean, and it's not just, and I'm not going to try to talk down on something like a Ward Gotti one, because that's a great fight in its own right.
Any of those fights, I'm just saying it's at that level that you show someone. But I mean,
yeah,
in terms
it's just different.
Skill, if it's highest level.
I mean, Ward Gotti once would speak to the casual fan too, and that's there's nothing wrong with
Castillo, anything like that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any of these things, but I just think that, and I would think that you would agree that Inoue Donaire 1 was the kind of fight where the skill level was so high.
Dude, everything good about boxing and what you love about it and what you become a fan for was on display in that fight.
Yeah, exactly. It was the blend of everything.
Totally.
So
it doesn't happen often, but when it happens, dude, it's like a perfect storm. It's incredible to watch.
Well, we going into that fight, look, I said earlier, I made a joke earlier about Nicholas Walters, and I mean, I was just messing around.
Who?
I know.
You seen him on Jones lately? Whatever.
Yeah, the dude he's like gone. I don't know where he is, but it was so crazy because I remember watching Nicholas Walters beat Nonito Donaire in whatever it was, I think 2015, 2016.
We all thought Donaire was finished after that fight.
And I'm not saying that obviously we were wrong. I'm not going to say rightly so, but it seemed like, well, I'm just not alone. A lot of us were like, dude, he got his ass kicked.
And he also, he was bigger. He had moved up. So like, what was that fight at featherweight?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
So that's at 126. And like Donaire clearly, like we've seen him move up and, we have success. Obviously he was diminishing a little bit as he moved up.
But that was definitely a bridge too far.
Walters was a big featherweight, dude. He was a monster. I mean, obviously like everyone remembers his last fight when Lomachenko just tooled him around, but like, before that, Walters was a wrecking machine, and Donaire got wrecked in that fight. Like he had his moments, but I mean, for the most part, Walters just kind of bossed him and then finished him hard. And like at that point, no one had seen Donaire be treated like that. Like he was, already in the pound for pound levels. We were talking like the spectacular knockouts. Yeah, he had lost to Rigondeaux, but still, no one had treated him like that at that moment. And his comeback since then, after that, even with a couple of setbacks as well, was still absolutely incredible leading up to this moment. And the fact that he was able to go back down and weight and do that. But
yeah,
the monster is a generational talent, though. That's all there is to it.
It's to the point where, yeah, is it possible that Naoya Inoue would have destroyed any version of Nonito Donaire? Sure, there's a whole bunch. And is it also possible that Nonito could go on to still fight now and still be okay, still get some good wins? Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily see why not. We didn't even see enough of the fight to know. Was it his legs? I don't know. Was it just the fact that Inoue is just a crazy heavy puncher? I don't know. It could have been a little A, a little B. Man. Right.
Like that fight happened in 2019. Donaire is what, 39 now?
Yeah.
That's for that division, and going back down in weight in the fights and the long career that he's had in general for a low weight guy. That's an old age. I mean, Donaire's different, obviously. He's not your average guy for that division because most people already start pettering out in their early 30s. Donaire is obviously the exception, first ballot Hall of Famer, yada yada yada. But still, that was still 2 years. I mean, he's had a couple of knockouts, impressive knockouts at that, since the fight. When he knocked out Nordena Ubali.
Yeah.
Which was actually a huge win for him because I wasn't sure if he was going to win that fight, but I mean, he blasted him. And then, the title defense that he had after that, he was looking good. But at the same time, you could still see he was like more flat-footed the way he was there. He obviously, his left hook has always been his bread and butter, but he was still relying on more of his power punches and everything. And you could see he was getting a little bit older. Like the power was still there. The quick twitch to a degree is still there. And the ring savvy of just experience was still there. But like, you take all of that and still him being old 2 years after the fight of the year, close to 2 years after the fight of the year that we had. Inoue, who's, been resting, hasn't taken any punishment in his fights since then, in his subsequent fights. I mean, they've been ho-hum, but just, and he's still in his absolute prime. It just, things weren't going to add up for him.
It's like I can't remember what the specific lyric was, and y'all must have forgot.
Yeah.
But Roy says some shit to the degree of, they say I don't fight nobody, but I just make them look like nobody. It's kind of like, first of all, Roy, a couple of those dudes were nobodies.
I mean, second of all, and it's a level like Roy was hundreds and hundreds of levels above all those guys. Don't get me wrong; they weren't bad fighters per se, but like
a couple of them were kind of bad, though. A couple of them were kind of bad. But yeah, specifically, yeah,
Ricky New York's Frazier, finest, NYPD's finest. Yeah,
fools fighting the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, and fools are talking about it. Come on, no, but beyond that, it's almost tough to gauge how good Inoue even is because he's just destroying fools. And the guys that he's destroying are good fighters. They're obviously not great fighters. Some of them are going on to still do some stuff after getting destroyed, post Inoue.
But these are guys who are like really tough guys. Like
they're good fighters.
Payano is like Juan Carlos Payano is a guy that usually goes rounds with everybody and gives people fits when he fights. Like he's a tough guy. He got starched quickly. Pedraza, correct? Was it Pedraza?
No,
not Pedraza. What's the dude he destroyed in the Super Six that like talked shit to his dad?
Was that Nieves?
No, I don't remember who he fought in the Super Six, but it was for he knocked the guy out in the second round, like he just bludgeoned him.
Oh, Rodriguez.
Yes, Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Remember, Rodriguez was a good fighter as well. I mean, I can't even remember his first name, but
it's like if you go back in his like last 10 combined opponents, they have something like 6 losses or something. Yeah. I mean, like these are not just some, maybe a little bit more, but these are not scrubs.
The thing that I love about Inoue, and it confirms his pound for pound status and just how good he is that like, just, dude, he's so compact and just well put. The way he puts his punches together, man, like there's nothing gets wasted. Like he knows what he's doing with it. Like he knows the flow of the fight, where he's going to place his punches, how hard he's going to effectively hit you right there. Like his movements, how quick he throws these things, man, and just like everything is so compact and on point. His defense is on point. For example, round 1 today, in the first round, because the fight only went 2 rounds, Donaire caught him with a left hook. Donaire came out firing a little bit early on, and he caught Inoue early on for a shot, and you could see Inoue right away from that moment on just like woke up from that. Not to say he was in cruise control early on, he was just kind of feeling it out. But once he got hit, it turned into a whole other thing, and that's when you saw him like just snapping in. And that's what culminated into the knockdown at the end of the round. Like, dude, that guy is just, he's levels above everyone in his division, man. He's probably the best in the world. If 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it. There's so many guys at the very top, but he's right there with them. You know what I mean? And other fighters too, like Tank Davis, for example, who was caught talking about him during an interview. Like, they all respect him. They know his level of talent. I wish he was 147, 135, whatever you want to say, to fight those guys. Because imagine how that would have been. But the fact is, man, he's like a mini Wilfredo Gomez right now, and I'm rolling with it.
So he's gone from junior flyweight, up to junior bantamweight, and then up to bantamweight now. Now he's up at bantamweight and threatening.
And he's the king, man. Like, no matter what. I know he says he wants to unify, and Paul Butler is the WBO champion. That's gonna be anticlimactic. You know what I mean? Whenever that decides to happen, if that happens, we already know what's gonna happen with that.
Well, to rewind a little bit, you were talking about that first knockdown. So I mean,
okay, yeah.
To rewind just slightly, basically, for anybody who didn't watch, and I guess there are going to be some people who haven't gotten a chance to watch or don't want to watch. I mean, I don't know why the fuck you wouldn't want to watch if you're listening to this or watching this. That's crazy. But regardless, rather than any sort of fight of the year kind of action, I think it became clear pretty early on. It was like seconds into the fight, Nonito Donaire lands a left hook. Not a big left hook, but it was, I think, probably stiff enough that Inoue is like, okay, all right, let's not fuck around here, and that's kind of.
You remember the first fight too. You know what he had to go through for that.
Exactly. He still has remnants. His eye still looks like he has scar tissue there. Of course, it looks okay. It hasn't split open, and he hasn't had visible issues that we know of with his eye, but his eye looks affected. It does not look symmetrical anymore. And so, I think that could be a concern going forward, but he hasn't had to take any damage. Like you've said, in his recent fights, he's been okay. He's been able to get some rest in. I don't like the inactivity per se, but if that's also keeping him fresh, then that's cool too.
Yeah, but I wish he was more active too, man.
I would just like to see him more active here, personally. I mean, or even if it's not here, just more in a more accessible way. Because
you only got those snippets of him like doing exhibitions. If you saw them, remember the few times you see clips of him, like that someone put up, I think, a fight of his that he had in Japan with the guy, the former champion that Gushikin managed.
I don't. Was this recent?
Like last year or somewhere around there, but it was posted on YouTube, and he was just, it was like a couple of exhibitions.
I probably saw it, but. But I mean, I know that he had been kind of guarding his eye and trying to make sure he didn't have any other issues. I want to say he had a hand issue or something like that at some point too. But I mean, there was no visible sign that he had any plan to fuck around with Nonito Donaire in this fight. And it became pretty clear early on that he was measuring, but like the way that he flipped that switch on Donaire so quickly, because Donaire came out pressuring, almost as if he realized that he needed to get something done early or get respect early or whatever the case may be. And it was just, he walked directly into something that hurt him. And then that right hand right at the end of the round was so quick, it traveled barely any distance whatsoever.
It was perfect.
And it was set up perfectly with a left hook. That's like the best. That's just a chef kiss combination, dude. Yeah, that lead with the left hook and follow with the right hand combination. That shit is so beautiful.
The torque of it, the speed. Donaire had
so
no
beautiful.
clue it was coming that fast. Pow!
Yeah. it caught him perfectly. And he's this was only a handful of hours ago, but even since then, Nonito has said that after he got up from that he was just like, he didn't even know what was going on after that.
Yeah.
And that he fought, and anyway, he went to his
It would have
corner.
ended in the first round if there was 30 seconds left, as opposed to being in the
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It almost was worse that the bell rang right after that, because it kind of prolonged his suffering. And as soon as Inoue came out for the second round, he just bombed him out. Like, he wasted no time, didn't really seem like he was worried whatsoever, walked through whatever Donaire had and just bombed him out. It was brutal. Like, when he that finishing sequence was how precise he is with his punches.
That's
Dude,
what
I know
mean.
that we sound like we're heaping
so
praise forever on him, but it's praiseworthy, Yeah, it is
fascinating to watch, man, the way he set that up, because he didn't waste anything again. Like, everything was just perfectly placed. He just went, he didn't wade in there throwing a billion punches to kind of overflow him. Like, he
kept his distance. He wasn't falling into him. You know what I'm like?
Broke him a couple of times, and then once he threw, boom, 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 boom. Like,
that to me is one of the main differences between like a real high level pro and champion. And obviously it's going to vary, and there are going to be like a whole lot of moving parts where if a guy is just fucking aggressive enough, or if he's just hard hitting enough, he can just kind of brute force his way through there. But when we see punchers of that level who aren't just hard punchers, but the kind of punchers who, like I said, they get a guy on the ropes or an opponent on the ropes, and they keep their distance instead of smothering their power or smothering their work, falling into it, not quite knowing what to throw, but changing angles, et cetera, giving themselves space to work. That's something that Roman Gonzalez does that's just beautiful too. And so anyway, I really appreciate that about Inoue and how he was able to close the show today, man. That was absolutely rough.
That's the way you're supposed to do it, man. That's how the best in the world do it. Look, I respect the hell out of Donaire. I've watched him and worked a lot of his fights over the years for Punch Zone and other various things. And we've been, he's been on the scene since 2007, when he splashed on with that big upset against Vic Darchinyan. Guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. You know what I mean? Tons of memories, tons of everything like that. So it's always kind of bittersweet to see guys, who have made their name in the sport, certified legend status, I guess, for their era and all that, kind of get taken out violently. We saw it with Hopkins. We saw it many times with Roy Jones. Yeah. I don't mean to put it like that, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? Like,
it is. Yeah.
Sometimes guys, retire on their own way, like Floyd Mayweather, for example. Sometimes guys, they just take a loss and they get to ride out into the sunset, like Manny Pacquiao, instead of getting knocked out violently. But Donaire, a lot of the time, sometimes they really just need to get taken out, and this is what kind of happened today. Like you said earlier, Donaire, Naoya Inoue, the monster, is such an elite talent that doesn't really reflect so much on Donaire where he's at. I mean, I know exactly. He just kind of made him look like that, but is it really worth Donaire to keep on going after this? Because, look how much that he's accomplished. Like, what else is there for him? Is he going to move back up in weight? Like, what else is there going for him? You know what I mean? Like, Fulton's at junior featherweight. So, at this point, he has a Hall of Fame career, all the credentials, the way he got taken out. He took, Inoue to hell and back their first fight. He can always ride on that too. Like, he had a beautiful, like, summer post late end career renaissance before this. If I was him, I'd retire, but who knows what's going to happen.
I agree. I think that the old cliche, he has nothing left to prove, because he really doesn't. There's nothing that makes a whole lot of sense out there for him as far as opponents at 118. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And like you said, it doesn't really make sense to move up either. And at this stage in his career, I guess he could be fighting on for money. Yeah. But you would imagine that he's not going to keep fighting unless he's getting big fights, and he goes up another division, and the big fights are not, those aren't the kind of opponents he wants.
No.
So yeah, I do think that, I agree with you there. And to kind of flip back to what you were saying too, as far as Inoue and how he rates or how he ranks among the other fighters of today, I think he's got to be up there. I don't really make a whole lot of lists. I know you don't really either, but if I did
he's
make
one of the top 3 best in the world. He has to be.
he's got to be. I mean, he's just got to be. The biggest sign of trouble that he's ever had was against Nonito Donaire. Nothing to be ashamed of, obviously. And on top of that, Nonito pulled out, like, salvaged a fucking performance for the ages in that fight. It wasn't like he looked like absolute shit or something like
All the
that.
greats have one left in him, right?
Yeah. What's that?
I said all the greats always have that one left in him.
Yeah, exactly. And that was, I guess, his one. And so in any case, I think that you got to say without question that Inoue's got to be in the top couple fighters of the world. And if you rank him at number 1, I ain't going to be sad.
No, not at all, man. A lot of people were saying that immediately after the fight, and deservedly so. Like the accolades that he's had and the things that he's been able to accomplish so much in his career, and like he's still in his prime. I'm just curious to see what he's going to do next. I know he said immediately after the fight that he really wants to unify the division. And like I said, the last champion out there is Paul Butler, who is really, not a bad fighter, but a guy that has just no chance against Inoue. So that's almost just anticlimactic and afterthought. But once he does that, where is he going to lead to? Junior featherweight. And since we've been talking one of the best fighters in the world, we got to talk about, what the best junior featherweight in the world was able to do this past weekend. So
yeah, dude, I think you bring up excuse me, an interesting point about Butler and stuff like that, and the prospect of fully unifying. We were talking about this, the whole kind of 4-belt era. We've talked about this a couple times because Jermell Charlo, a number of fighters.
It's becoming more common now that since it's happened a couple of times, everyone else is like, you know what, I want to do it too. I want to be the first one, because this is it. What's happening now is that even though they won't be the first one ever to do the 4-belt era thing, they want to be the first person in their division to be able to do that and go down the history books like that. I get it, but
right. And it's just become more and more common to see fighters look for the 4 belts instead of the 3 belts. Or, I mean, like we're not gonna argue. We don't really give a shit. I don't think Aris does. I know I don't. Like as far as which should matter.
Dude, we're old school fans, man. I came from the era that no one gave a shit about the
I don't
WBO
care.
And
yeah, I'm not gonna shill for the.
I just want to see the best fight the best. I don't
right. I don't care about the WBO over the WBA. I don't care about any of that. I just know I think that fairly educated boxing fans, or maybe that's not the right word, fans who watch a lot of boxing generally know who the best fighters in the world are, who the best fighters in each given division are, and want those fighters to fight each other. It really doesn't need to be much more complicated than that. And the alphabet organizations just complicate that shit. That being said, I totally understand Inoue's predilection or desire to go ahead and unify entirely in the division and kind of leave no stones left unturned in terms of the fellow titleists or whatever. Totally fine. But like you said, Steph Fulton, cool boy Steph, dude is absolutely smooth operator. Took out,
and one of the most stylish guys outside the ring too, bro. If you saw that he wore a fur North Face jacket, this bright red one earlier in the year for a Showtime show. That was one of the cleanest looks I've seen in forever, man. I wanted that too. I looked it up online and decided immediately I don't want it. But
yeah, no shit.
No.
Yeah, them shit's a good cost of
penny.
Yeah,
cool boy Steph is actually it works perfectly in all aspects for him. Absolutely. I'm a big fan.
And I gotta give him props. He's got a nice beard. Like actual beard, not like metaphorical.
You can tell he's using some good products on that, man.
He seems like he's got a good metaphorical beard too, from what we can tell.
I'm a fan all around of him, definitely.
And also on top of that, look, he wound up taking a wide decision and defending his unified junior featherweight title over
Danny Roman. Yeah.
Yep. He wound up getting a wide decision, a very deserved wide decision. And what I was going to say is something that I've said a number of times on the show, still agree with it, still will say it. I, at least personally, tend to give a little bit of extra credit to the fighters who can get it done without having much punching power. because, and I'm not talking about entertainment value. I get it. You know, some people don't like it. Some people don't want to watch a technician take 12 round decisions. Like, I understand. I'm not saying I agree, but I get it. But some fighters or some fans do like that. Some fans do respect that a little bit more. And I'm saying I give it a little bit more credit, because especially going in there and fighting it out with fighters who do have the power to hang with you or to outdo you power wise and still getting it done.
Yep.
I can't find much fault with that. And that's the kind of thing that Steph Fulton does. And I really appreciate it. I think there's absolutely no question that he is approaching like the top 12, 10 pound for pound ish, something like that. If someone
put him in the lower 10 of their pound for pound list, I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it. But I do think that he is in need of a couple better opponents to get it done. But that's cool. I think there's also no question that he's going to have a bright future.
Totally. The Figueroa win was huge. That was an all-out war. Their styles mesh well. You know, Fulton, the boxer, Figueroa, the heavy pressure guy that kept him on the ropes and forced Fulton to the fight off him and really, you know, test his mettle. That was a great fight that Fulton deservedly won, even though Figueroa lost his mind afterwards and complained over and over and over, whatever. And then this fight, Daniel Roman, even though he lost a wide decision, was a unified champion. Before, it was probably before the pandemic, right? He was around that time. Yeah, that's when he lost the title right before the pandemic started, correct?
Who did?
Daniel
Roman?
Yeah.
Oh man, let me open it because I'm not.
I want to say, I think it was the beginning of 2020.
It would have been, it would have been like it's right toward the start of the pandemic. Yeah, I would have. I had to look at the timing of it. Yeah,
right before then, man, he was one of the most, you know, up and coming, like well respected. And he was a unified champion who built himself up the hard way. And he was a very, very battle-tested, good fighter who was a great inside fighter and vastly underrated. And I think a lot of people were expecting him to test Fulton more than he was able to.
Well, and on top of that, too, Akhmadaliev it's not like Akhmadaliev is some scrub, you know, like he's
no, man. Even though he only has a few wins, man, he's in the same class, like in the same realm as when Lomachenko came on the scene. Like one of those guys, they have such a vast amateur career that they get hot shot at the top relatively quickly.
Yeah, and so there's no real shame.
And that was a really close fight too.
It was. Yeah. There's no real shame in losing that kind of fight. And then, you know, it just shows, I in my opinion, it shows that the level of skill that we're talking about with Steph Fulton, where he's able to
shut him down.
Yeah, able to pick off the incoming so well. And then just kind of snipe you, just pop, you know, pepper you all night long. And that is actually a whole different kind of skill to the ability to stay focused, to do that for 12 rounds against a fairly dangerous opponent.
He wasn't running or doing anything like that. He was mostly staying in the pocket and taking care of business doing that, man. Like he's
and that ain't easy to do.
No, definitely not, man. Especially against a guy like Roman, who's not just a pressure fighter, but a very intelligent pressure fighter. And he completely shut him down, you know, like those scores reflected how the fight went. It's one of those fights that it's one-sided, but it's like a competitive, fun one-sided fight. It's not just a one-sided beatdown. Like we've seen those over the years that, like, you know, the fight's wide, but the guy is so plucky that they're fighting that it makes it still, you know, entertaining to a degree.
Yep. And I agree. I think that's exactly the kind of fight it was, that it was, you know, Roman was never quite in the fight points wise, but you never got the feeling like it was like, dude, they should stop this because he's getting his ass
not
kicked
at all. He was going
like
the whole time, man. Fulton was just putting on a clinic.
Just showing his class, showing, you know, what level he's on, which is obviously a very high level. So going from there, you know, Steph Fulton and how good he looks, and then, you know, you start getting ideas. Naoya Inoue, you look pretty good. He said he wants to
move up. Eventually it's going to happen. Look, is there anybody at bantamweight for the monster to really compete with him?
No. I mean, on paper, no.
No.
Probably not.
No. Yeah.
So
Paul Butler, again, I keep on bringing him up, but like he's the WBO champion. Not a bad fighter in general, but like, does he have a shot in hell? No.
With all due respect, no, not almost nobody on the planet whose last name is not Butler is going to be picking him to win that fight.
So,
and with all due respect, it's, you know, it has nothing to do with him. It's just the level that Naoya Inoue is on right now.
So all roads lead to 122, I guess. That's what
But
he was alluding
what?
to.
So you asked it earlier. So
Okay.
what's the ceiling? What's the limit? There has to be. Look, just looking, he's not that fucking tall. But let me go ahead and confirm, because I don't know. My guess would probably be
Yeah,
something
look it
like
up.
5'6", 5'7", right?
I'm not even
Yeah,
sure if
five
he's
five,
that.
not even
5'5",
five
that's what I
five.
thought about, 5'5". Okay.
So there's obviously going to be a limit to how far he can go up. Now, I mean,
And his body too is that, like, for instance, remember we brought up Ubali earlier. That guy was like kind of wide and stocky. Inoue is not small, but he's not like big either. Like, he looks like he's the size for a bantamweight that he should be, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not,
no, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like the body type does matter. It's not
yeah.
just about height. It's not just about weight. But you look at a guy, like you look at, I mean, you just think like how far up in weight could Inoue go, and it just seems
Mhm.
like he couldn't really go that far. He looks fairly comfortable as far as bantam weights go. He doesn't really look like a guy whose frame is so wide that he could just put on weight forever. But I guess then again, if you just talk in terms of height, Tank Davis is not a very tall guy, and he's
There you
fine.
go. Yeah, totally. Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a lot of open-ended questions there, but apart from the size difference, like we're asking what's the ceiling. Apart from that, stylistically, it's a really interesting matchup because you have this precision puncher who's scary and is also very skilled against a guy who has supreme skill. So it's a very interesting kind of style wrangling there.
Totally. It's a fascinating fight, and I think it's the best lower weight fight that could be made right now. And
Definitely one of them.
like, it's gonna be hard to make though, man, because of boxing politics. You know what I mean? If Inoue ends up moving up, right, which is inevitable eventually, if Fulton doesn't move up to himself, because I'm sure he has plans to move it up one day, like, Fulton fights for the PBC, under the PBC banner. Inoue, well, he's undertaken with Mr. Honda and others, but he's also, for the American side, he's represented by Top Rank. Top Rank and PBC don't usually do business together.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Like, it would be tough, man. This is one of those fights that they would try to marinate and a lot of back and forth. I just don't see it happening anytime soon, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Just because of how the boxing world is, you know what I mean?
And this is not a swipe at Top Rank because I don't know enough to take a swipe at Top Rank for it. Like I'm not an expert at all when it comes to the business, and I don't know enough. But it just seems to me like it sucks that Inoue is fighting at fucking 5 in the morning, 5, 6 in the morning
And that
on a
wasn't even
Tuesday.
publicized. I actually had forgot that this fight was coming up this quickly.
That's what I'm
It was
saying.
later in the
And
summer.
that was going to be the very next thing that I said was that, I mean, okay, look, dude, I get it. It's in Japan, they're just looking at a different schedule, and it's all good. Saitama Super Arena, fucking love it. It's the venue for tons of great classic MMA and wrestling. It's an awesome venue. The walk-ins were great. It's all good. I'm not slagging that part of it. It's what you said. It's that, like, I totally had forgotten it was happening whatsoever until I think a little under a week ago. And I was like, oh shit, seriously? Like, it's that close? And then I kind of paid attention from that point forward. I saw almost nothing about it. And like, as much as we're on social media and looking at boxing things, like, you just think that you would see more. And again, I'm not pointing at Top Rank because for all I know, they're like,
leave that to boxing Twitter, who's always constantly attacking them for their lack of Inoue promotion.
Well, yeah, it's definitely.
I'm not lying. You see how they go up.
It's a convenient target for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe from their perspective, they kind of think, look, dude, we're not putting in money to this. This is fucking ESPN's deal. They have the rights all worked out over there, and it's on them. So if they want to advertise it, great. If not, whatever, hands off. That might be the case, and it's all good. But to me, that sure seems like just like a massive waste, bro. He's one of the best fighters in the world without any question whatsoever. You get almost zero pushback on that from any fans at all. And so, and on top of that, pretty much everybody universally agrees that he's exciting. So the fact that we didn't know about this more, the fact that more people didn't know about it, the fact that more people saw, more people didn't see it, it sucks. And it just seems like a big misstep. Again, I don't know who the misstep is on, but it just seems that way to me. So I guess in a way, though, the only upside to that is that maybe that makes a Fulton fight easier to make. The fact that he's not a megastar here, and that perhaps Top Rank doesn't even know what to do with him.
I would hope so, man. I just, like you alluded to earlier, I felt like he was being wasted for a little bit. Fighting only once a year or whatever. I know he had that injury from the Donaire fight, but like he wasn't being.
He's young, dude. He needs to be fighting more.
Yeah, dude. And he's like I said, he's a generational
but
talent. He has to be. Like, there's no excuse for him not to be active.
Maybe it's selfish. I'm not trying to get him fucked up or nothing. I
just
want to see him more.
It's not being selfish, dude. He just needs to be like, he doesn't take punishment in a lot of his fights. He needs to be more.
Yeah, active, I just want to see him more. But I'm.
You're really gonna turn him into one of those guys that fights once or twice a year at the most? Like, really?
Yeah, dude. I just don't see how that's super helpful, because at some point it seems like they're like we're seeing with Jamal Charlo. He fought almost a year ago, and then he gets an injury, which happens. It fucking happens. But then you get an injury, and now he's out even longer.
But look at who he was going to fight too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so now we're having to wait even longer, where a fight we didn't really want in the first place gets pushed out even. So yeah, that's kind of, at some point, the fighting that infrequently is actually detrimental. Like if you're going to fight at all, then you're going to need to. Anyway, so I would love to see him more. I would love to see a little bit more clearer push.
I'm hoping, because of the way he handled Donaire tonight, that's a light bulb turns on at Top Rank or whoever it is, and decides, hey, we need to like really push this and market this now, because look what the hell we have. Like, this is a gem you have. You have an absolute diamond. Don't just let it go to don't let it go to waste here, because letting him fight once or twice a year. It's just letting him go to waste. He was so much more active before he got this deal. Great, we got American access to him and all that, but like,
it's frustrating.
Something with him, man. Something.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
My God. Like the way he just blew out Donaire right now. He should be back in the ring in 2 months if they could.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I know that's not the business the way it is, but like, it just needs to happen. So.
Well, I know we're crossing our fingers for Inoue, Fulton Inoue, however you want to express that.
If that can happen within the next year or so, I would be the happiest fan in the sport. Like,
yeah, that would be fantastic. I would love to see that, because definitely Inoue took Donaire out back.
Yeah.
Speaking of Outback, you like that transition? You like that?
Good stuff. That was smooth.
I had nothing. That's all I had. Nah, dude. Speaking of Outback, though, Devin Haney went to the Outback and brought back the undisputed lightweight championship.
That he did.
I know
that was impressive stuff, man. Might not have been the most exciting fight, but dude.
Well,
it had to be done.
You were expecting a lot more from George Kambosos, and this is not to slight Devin Haney at all, but we were just expecting a more tussly back and forth kind of fight. I think
we all fell into the how he performed against Tio.
Yeah. Well, and now we're kind of
and all the shit that he was talking before the fight at his supreme confidence. You thinking that he's going to fight at this level all the time.
Well, and now also we're in a position too where I said this going into the fight, where when we previewed it, where we don't even really know what that Teofimo Lopez win means for Kambosos, because Tio's off the rails somewhere, bro. He's going to fight somebody I'm certainly not familiar with when he comes back. And then I don't know. And he's moving up in weight too, and we don't really know what the end goal for the end game for that is. So we have absolutely no idea what that win means, because it's taken him so long to get his shit together and come back. But at the very least, judging off of that, that's like really all we had to go off of. So, I get it. And I think that we made a misstep there, not only us, but a lot of people thinking the fight would be closer. But I think that we probably should, at least me, I should have stuck with what I had said on the show, which was, given all of the outside nonsense, if you set that aside, Devin Haney has a clear stylistic advantage. which that's exactly what happened.
Totally.
His jab was way too much for Kambosos, and George Kambosos just never really got untracked, never really got any momentum, couldn't really get anything done, had a jab in his face all night. That's pretty much the story. Like it didn't really get much deeper than that.
I mean, everyone always says it too. Like the jab is the most important punch in the boxing, in the sport, and it really is, man. Haney dictated the entire fight off of his jab. And it wasn't just like, I mean, like he was beautiful with it. He changed levels, he changed the speed of it, the trajectory of where it was going, everything like that. He had Kambosos completely bamboozled. And the problem with Kambosos is that for this fight, he tried to outthink a thinker. Like he was trying to out counter punch him, out trying to box him, and that wasn't going to work at all. Like there were slight moments here and there where I thought he was going to turn it on. Like remember we talked about it a couple of days ago. He would land a lead hook that Haney was kind of open for, and at that moment you think, okay, maybe he can capitalize off this. He wouldn't do it. He would stop again and just he got into a thinking match. And you can't do that with a guy like Haney, who is content to go the distance doing what he does. He does. If Haney doesn't have to be pushed, he'll stay at what he's doing because it's working. I mean, most guys would be like that too. Like, you know what I mean? I kind of wish to myself that if the way Haney was controlling the fight, had he stepped it up a little bit, I think he could have done more damage, potentially even, stopped him at some point later in the fight. But he never really seemed like interested in doing that, which is fine. But I mean, he showed he was a complete boxer, dude. He had Kambosos completely shut down just from his jab. And anytime Kambosos really tried to do anything, Haney, intelligently clinched him up, pushed him back, got back to on his stick again. Couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, dude. I think that, like I said, and it's really tough to know what that Teofimo Lopez fight means. But the success that Kambosos did have in that fight was he was able to land some really sneaky shots. That he was a little bit more explosive than many people thought he could be going into that fight. And he was able to land some really sneaky shots that surprised Teofimo Lopez. And so it was like he kept trying to do the same thing. He kept trying to counter Devin Haney, and he was like waiting for the jab to counter it or waiting for something else to counter it. And instead of making something happen, I mean, this is really basic Teddy Atlas shit, that you hear while he's commentating. You can't just, it's a silent contract. You can't just stand in there. Come on, you got to get going. You got to make something happen.
Teddy's notes?
What's
that? What he did on Friday Night Fights? Teddy's notes or whatever?
That was one of, you can't follow a guy around. You got to make something happen on offense. And if it's clear that by like round 3, trying to just stand there, counter a guy is not going to work, don't keep doing that. But also you have to give Devin Haney credit too. You can't just put it all on George Kambosos and say, well, he didn't do this.
Haney put on the best performance of his career, man.
No question. Yeah, it wasn't just about Kambosos not doing something or doing something. A lot of it was Devin Haney was not allowing him to.
That was the whole thing. He had the perfect game plan, and I get the sense that even without his dad in his corner or anyone else, he would have done the same thing. He was just.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. He was ready for that. Totally. And I don't think there's any question it should have been like nearly a shutout. It really sucks to see 2 judges scoring 4 rounds for Kambosos when he didn't.
You know what? That's just being in the home field advantage for whatever it was. I guarantee it was one of those rounds that Kambosos went like throwing flurries at his body and head, or like one of those rounds where
he tried to give him that bloomin' onion. Didn't work.
Exactly. But did you notice though in one of the fights before that? I think it was the Maloney fight where he came out to Men at Work and how we were referencing the late '80s and how Australia's.
Yeah, dude, that was good shit. Yeah, we're talking about, was it Michael Hutchins too, NXS? That fool's Australian.
Yeah,
dude. Totally. There's a whole, everybody got all into the late 80s and mid 80s. Everybody got into Australia.
Yeah, it was interesting. Even as a kid, I still remember that. But Haney's the man out the division. And you know what that means is that there's fresh blood up there. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of a shakeup. I don't want to see an immediate rematch with Kambosos. I know that he's probably going to take it. And I know that there was a clause that had to have an immediate one in Australia, whatever. But like this fight was the way it happened. I can't see anything happening differently in a rematch. Sure, Kambosos probably is going to be a little bit more aggressive or whatever it's going to be, but I think he's reached his ceiling. It kind of showed in this fight, He struck a bottle of lightning against Teofimo in that one fight, but I think he shows where he's at in this one, and that's a level below these guys. So
I would disagree. Yeah.
And that's how I watched it. You know what I mean? Because if he really could have adjusted and could have done something, he probably would have tried to do it in that fight. And he had no answers for that. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna watch back on the tape and try to do something, but still the same thing. He might make it a little bit more interesting in terms of his aggression, but I think Haney will rise to the occasion as well and still beat him. So I would much rather, in my opinion, love to see Haney challenge fight Lomachenko next.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that's
really
the fight that I would find absolutely fascinating, and I think someone that would push Haney.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, it might not be the most aesthetically pleasing fight. There might be a lot of feints, a lot of twitching, a lot of jabs, but that's just what it is. There's not. That's just sometimes what the styles lead to.
Lomachenko is not going to stand back like Kambosos did and just kind of like faint. Like no, once he starts figuring things out and feels a little bit comfortable to let go, he's going to do something. And he has a chip on his shoulder too to get to really try to dominate. That's going to force Haney to fight back too, because that's all I've been waiting for.
Yep.
Like Haney has all the skills, and I have no doubt when he's really pressed that he's going to rise to the occasion. But I'm just waiting for that fight that he's forced to do that.
Yeah, we've only seen a brief.
He doesn't have to do that yet.
We've only seen the brief flash against Linares, and that was.
And he was hurt in that fight, and he had to clinch. And I want, and that made me like wonder. I need to see more now. Like I want to see someone really like test his will. Someone push him, just really push him. And Lomachenko, I think, will do that. Yeah, I think Lomachenko's on the downside right now, but I think he still has enough that he's really, really could push Haney. It's a fascinating matchup to me.
Well, and I was going to say too, every so often when you get fighters who have really technical styles and you pit them against one another, and when the skill level, I don't know whether the skill level is equal, and that's not what I'm suggesting, but what I'm saying, when it is, sometimes they got to slug it out, and that's what it turns into in order to see, or they have to push a little bit more and expose themselves a little bit more than they generally would in order to see who's got what, you know what I mean? And it turns into a better fight than you think it might be. So there's a possibility of that too. But we also don't really know where Lomachenko is as far as his career, how much the stress of war, how much is that going to take out of him? It might not take anything. We don't know. But that would be a really interesting fight. Seeing, Tank in the mix obviously would be really interesting. I just don't, call me an ass, but I just don't really give a shit about Ryan Garcia in this mix that much.
Well, I mean look, bro, like, granted,
I don't think he belongs in the conversation. He does popularity-wise.
Exactly. It's his popularity.
Not in terms of accomplishment.
No, man. His biggest win is Luke Campbell. A good win, but just, looking upon everybody else right now who surpassed him, it's, kind of in the back burner. Yeah, I know he was going through a lot of mental issues, and
I'm not going to talk shit about that at all. I'm not knocking him down on that or anything like that.
Yeah, I hope he gets all the best help he was able to get and do with his thing. But I totally agree with you, man. He's not there yet. Sure, he's fast and all this other stuff, but like, I need to see him.
Let's see him come back first.
Yeah, let me see him
before we even start having that. Yeah, he's talking about fighting this person and that person. I'm like, bro, let's see you come back first. Like, it's all good, but let's see you.
He's already reigniting his stuff with Tank after this fight. Oh, it was so boring, so boring. When you and I fight, you better not make it like this. And Tank's like, man, shut up, loser.
Dude, one of the best clips that we've seen, dude, in recent weeks was it. Well, I didn't even notice this on the broadcast, but
are you talking about when you said shut your bitch ass up?
No. When no, that was awesome too. But no,
I thought you were talking about Tank.
No, a week and a half ago at the was it the Charlo fight when everybody's there and Garcia's there, and he's bet Spence.
That was at the Tank fight.
Or right. That's right. Yeah. That was the following week.
He betted on Raleigh.
Yeah. He betted on Raleigh, and then immediately after the fight, there's a clip. Yeah, and they turn to him, and Garcia's like,
you see Spence turn and look at him. You see him, and he's just like,
yep. They turn and look at him like, pay me, dude. That shit is hilarious. That's one of the funniest. And I'm not even trying to just talk shit.
That
about
was
Ryan
Ryan too. He ran up, put his arm around him. Spencer was really like, "What the fuck is doing?"
He got himself into that mess. But hey, they said he paid, so yeah, I gotta
So
respect.
yeah,
him.
nah, it's all good. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I gotta respect him. Look, I don't care about Ryan Garcia is an easy target, super low hanging fruit when it comes to like picking on people on social media. I
And
get
that
it,
fight's
dude.
not going to happen anytime soon, man.
Yeah,
Because
I
again,
just don't
he's
care
on
about
his
that fight.
own and
That's
all
just
that. Like, no,
yeah, I just don't care about that fight. These De La
Oscar wouldn't let
Hoya,
it happen either. Imagine him's
yeah,
negotiating.
De La Hoya, Golden Boy, Ryan Garcia, these dudes are basically using these other fighters' names via social media to hype themselves up and keep the algorithm going. I get it, dude. I get it. All I'm saying is I don't really give a shit about him in the mix there. I'd rather see that mixture of Haney, Tank,
Yeah,
like those guys. I would rather see Lomachenko, Haney, Tank, like those three particular could match them any way you want, and I'm down.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
if
dude.
Ryan wants to be involved in that too, after a couple of wins, I'm down with that too, man. Like, I don't,
All good.
yeah. All I know is that like lightweight is stacked right now. All right. Stevenson is eventually going to be moving up too. And I think he's the most talented out of all of them. And
That's true.
it's going to be a good era.
PBC's doing a good thing with Isaac Cruz. We
Yeah,
still don't know 100% what he's got. Like
totally.
they've
Yeah.
done a really good job of kind of pivoting him off of that good performance in the Tank fight to kind of like make him his own star. So that it kind of remains to be seen where he's at. But yeah, dude, 135 is a lot of fun. All I know is that right now Devin Haney's the man. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to
And
make anything,
congratulations to him, man. He went out there, he took the belt back, he dominated the fight, he said he was going to do, and he's the man of his division. He went from everybody mocking him from being an email champion to being the undisputed champion. You can't deny the man. Good for him. And he's still young, bro. I don't even think he's reached his prime yet.
yep, dude, all I got to say is that's that email champion chant.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Good, I mean, like it still is BS how he actually became champion originally. But to his credit,
that's not his fault.
That's not his fault. But to his credit, look what he did, man.
He righted
turned
that wrong.
around. He became
Exactly.
undisputed champion. All respect to him.
He righted that wrong. Yeah,
Totally.
the alphabet, the sanctioning body nonsense. It's none of these fighters' fault. And I mean, it sucks because we're left having to debate this type of shit and trying to figure out all that type of shit. But to these fighters, a lot of these even minor belts matter and blah, 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 blah. So we get that. The point is that whatever you're looking at, clearly Devin Haney, he's the man. So he's the guy they got to go through now.
I'm happy for him, man. Look, we discussed it before when I said I was a little bit more happy that like Loma wasn't challenging Kambosos right away, because obviously if you watch the fight the way it was, Loma probably would have beat Kambosos, but
that version of Kambosos was not a good version of Kambosos.
No, definitely not. So the fact that Haney won it could hopefully bring us, like I said, a Loma Haney fight, Tank Haney, there's so many possibilities out there. Like Isaac Cruz, like all those guys, man. Like I just want to see Haney fight and be tested. I don't want to see him move up yet because there's so many other active guys at 135, and with Stevenson eventually moving up, there's a lot of action there. And if Haney can prove himself to be the absolute best of 135 after that, then you move up to 140, and the sky is the fucking limit.
Yeah, because who knows what Josh Taylor's doing? So.
Whatever.
So as far as I'm concerned, that division's wide open.
But again, man, Haney hasn't even reached his prime yet. I'm not even sure if Shakur Stevenson has reached his prime yet. Guys like that, like, dude, this future is bright at lightweight, 135, 141.
A lot of younger dudes with a lot of talent.
Hell yeah. I'm not anointing this Four Kings nonsense yet because everybody loves to jump the gun on that. I'm not even going to mention that. I'm just saying there is a ton of talent, just like the welterweight division that we had in the 90s with De La Hoya, Trinidad, and so and so and so and so. But like,
oh yeah,
it kind of has the same feel as this right now. We'll just see how it plays out. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, a lot of talent, a good amount of names, and a lot of potential for really cool.
A lot of big super fights that we can hopefully salivate for, because I'm already drooling thinking about some of them.
Yeah, man, we've been treated really nicely in the last couple months.
Boxing is dead.
Man, just absolutely fucking dead as a doornail,
That is
climbing
beautiful.
out of the grave.
You can really treat it. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, dude. And you know, this past weekend or kind of block of days that had boxing was also a lot of fun, dude. We got to see some really high level boxing. It was really cool. Really
Definitely.
cool. Yeah, dude, thanks for recapping it with me. And yeah, always a lot of fun when we do this shit, bro.
Always, bro, man. This was a blast.
Everybody who listened in, man, we appreciate you so much. If you listen in on any of those podcast apps, if you'd go ahead and give us a subscribe on there, throw us a comment, rating, those things really help us. If you watch on YouTube, also subscribe. Very much appreciated. As far as social media goes, Facebook and Instagram, we're on there. Find us on there, Knuckles and Gloves Podcast, but we're also individually on Twitter. For instance, my buddy Aris is on Twitter as Punch Zone Aris, me, Patrick Connor, on there as Patrick M. Connor. And we will see you there, Aris. Talk to you, bro.
All right, man. See y'all later.